What's up, guys? This is Teddy. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This video, we're going to be talking about one of the most underrated ideas, topics, things in the world of programming, and that is going to be the concept of objects. Once you can fully wrap your head around objects, what they are doing underneath the hood, how they differ from primitive types, so let's just go ahead. Let's do a brief refresher. I think it's really important that we just talk about something very important first, and that is the difference between a value type and a reference type. And I'm very infamous for wanting to literally beat into people's heads what is the difference between a value type and object type. It's called an object type in Typescript, but sometimes it is referred to as a reference type. Object, value, object. So a value type is going to be things like a string, and sometimes in C# and Java, quick little trivia, a string is actually an object type in C# and Java, but in TypeScript, it is a value type. We have a number. We have, I'm trying to think what else. String and a number are good for now. In object type, we have array, we have object. Obviously, object is going to be more than likely what you're going to see. I'm going to say it's about 80%. About 80% of your life in software development, C# and TypeScript, even JavaScript for that matter, a lot of it is going to be objects. And C# and Java and TypeScript, it's going to be even more. So pay extra attention to object, even over string number. If you can understand an object and really understand it at a base level, it will help you dividends. It will pay dividends. So what is the main difference between in a compiler, really low level underneath the hood? I'm assuming if you've gotten this far, you are probably professional. You're probably, somebody who likes to understand things at a deeper level. The difference between a value and an object type is where they're stored in memory. A value type is stored on the stack. The stack is designed for data structures that don't take up much space. It's the the tennis ball canister stack. If you want to know more about a stack, you can Google it. I have a whole course on data structures and algorithms in C#, but just for right now, just remember that object is stored on the heap because objects can be massive. I'm talking about when you start working, you're talking about an object with, so pretend like every single part of this is like a giant conceptual object, and then there's a string in here, there's an int in here, there's an array in here, and even if there is another object in here, sometimes there's a list, and then there's list of list of list of list, and objects can literally be like they're almost like Excel spreadsheets on steroids, and they're Excel spreadsheets that have Excel spreadsheets inside of them. So objects, but we're not going to, I'm getting a little carried away here. We're not going to be talking, about stuff that's that complex, but just remember where things are stored in memory, and think of objects as almost like Excel spreadsheets of computer data. They're just there to hold different primitive types. Objects are there to keep all your primitive types together. So look at this one, very simple example. This object is going to have a name, and this name is going to be a string. This is a string, and this is a Boolean. Those are the only two properties in our little Excel spreadsheet here that we're going to have to talk about. But what about in TypeScript? What does this have to do with TypeScript? We can take objects and we can apply these same type annotations, but we apply them with objects. And let's just put const beaver over here. We're going to print a beaver. We've got our beaver object, and its property is cute because all beavers are cute. And one day I'll show you guys, Cornell University has a picture of literally a basket of baby beavers, and it's literally the cutest thing, and I use it in my Angular course. So if you want to check out my Angular course, also make sure to check out that. So how are we going to make sure that we are only passing in this type of object that we have right here. Remember, we have all this complexity of objects, so how are you going to provide, or how are you going to make sure that this type of object can only be passed in to this function? And if this is kind of confusing you, without this is where all of the magic of TypeScript is going on. This is where the guardrails are coming out. This is where TypeScript is making sure that you are only passing in a beaver object. And it's happening right there, just where I underlined and where I was drawing with my pen. So right here. Don't worry about anything else, and don't look at anything else. Just kind of look right here, because this is where all the magic is happening. So another thing is that, is this function correct? Is this trick question? Is this function correct? If I run this function, what will happen? What's going to happen is it's actually going to error, because if you look, I have name and I have is cute, but notice something. Just slow down for a second and just kind of notice what's going on. This is what's actually being passed in. This is the actual variable that's being passed in. But this and this have nothing to do with this. Like, how is it going to go from this to this? Because it can't. Because you need to be aware. This is very, very important. This is something where a lot of people who are new to programming get messed up. Is you have to have your dot operator, because you're accessing an object. Before, we were previously just passing in strings. You need to be aware that we need to have beaver and we need to have dot is cute, because just by itself in the way that we had it before, that's not going to work. TypeScript only does the type checking. It can't pull out values out of an object. Think of this as you're passing in like a little Excel spreadsheet into your function, and you are in charge of actually accessing the data in that Excel spreadsheet. The software is not going to do it for you. It doesn't understand. So you need to be aware of that. Just remember, and we're going to do an example here in a second in the actual TypeScript. Just be aware. Whenever you see the colon on the right side, and if you're in C#, it's on the left side, it's going to be type checking. Type checking is just there to make sure that you're passing in the right object. Type checking is also not going to make sure that you're putting in the right name, but it will help you autofill as well too. Okay, so now we've hopped inside VS Code. Let's actually make a variable type annotation for our object. Just slow down. Don't try to think too much. Just realize variable annotation. We need to create an annotation for our object. So here's a neat little trick that you can do. If you don't, and this is kind of like a hack, this is, by doing this, I call it, you're beating the system, and you're not having to actually think. I'd rather you go in here and try to look at it and assign it yourself, but if you don't want to, I'm not going to either, because I'm lazy too. So we're gonna go in here. Remember, you want to do type checking. We're gonna have that dot. We're gonna go in here, and we want our name to always be a string. Then we're going to do the same exact thing. Is cute is going to be a string. Nope, no, it's not. I'm trying to trick you. I'm trying to make sure people are paying attention. No, it is not going to be a string. What is it? It's actually going to be a Boolean. So go in here. We have a Boolean. Now we want to go back and we want to make our print beaver function. So if you want to, you can pause it, write it down, but I'm just going to try to do it off the top of my head. And I might mess up, but this is part of the fun and part of the learning too. So make beaver print beaver info. Let's say print beaver info. So go up here, and what we can do is we can just say, what do we have here for the other one? We just had beaver. we go beaver, go up here and return console.log beaver info, and we need to do string interpolation, so beaver info, and then right here we have beaver dot let me see, name, and here and is cute. Then I have string interpolation right here, beaver dot is cute. And if you look, it's already done a form of type checking. And I honestly don't know exactly how it did it, but if you look here, beaver implicitly has type any. It's going to basically yell at you and tell you that you can't do this. If you want to turn this off, you can go into the TS config, but for learning's sake, we're not going to do that because that really would not make sense. And we're going to pass in the type of beaver, but it's giving us this error because it's trying to pass it in. Let me see. So print beaver info, beaver, just like that. And it will indeed let us, but we have to tell it that we will allow any. But then again, it'll turn everything off. So what do we do? Oh my gosh. We have to add type checking to it. And we do the exact same thing that we did up top. And this is very redundant and this is very repetitive. And in the future, I'm going to show you guys how we can make our own class that will make it so that we can just type in a beaver object just like that, and it will automatically, and we can use this in other places out of our program. Because right now, I mean, this is getting very cumbersome to keep having to type this object over and over in order to provide type annotations. But that is going to be pretty much it for objects. It's really not that much more complicated than that. In the next video, we're going to start talking about type aliasing. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and as always, thank you for watching.